Hi everybody, I'm Jim McCaskill. This here, Tally, she's Jack Russell, about 6-7 years old, deaf, so I gotta worry about disturbing her. She has given me a weird eye, now that I'm recording this. Alright, I just wanted to talk about some stuff that happened this week in Ontario, where I live, Northern Ontario specifically. As some of you might know, the provincial government is talking about divesting from, that is, selling the ONTC, the Ontario Northland Transportation Commission, which provides a lot of jobs for us up here in the north. Of course, the government, originally under Dalton McGuinty, and now under Kathleen Wynne, has said that there's simply no money to keep the ONTC around. No money. We just gotta suck it up and swallow it. That said, the government did find money to do this wasteful and really self-motivated cancellation of the gas plants down south near around Mississauga. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's several millions of dollars, at least $60 million, which was, whatever the number was, it was much more than what it would have cost to keep the ONTC around. Now, I don't have a problem with gas plants down south, and I don't have a problem with the people in Mississauga not wanting those gas plants down there. But Liberals, if you felt that those gas plants should have been there to the point where you had already started building them, the contracts were signed, then suck it up. Doesn't matter if there's a by-election, stick to your words, and go through with it. Okay? If you thought the gas plants should have been there, then keep them there. Doesn't matter that the NDP said they'd get rid of them. Doesn't matter that the PCs said they would get rid of them. You felt strongly enough that they should be there. You had the contract signed. The plants were being built. Now, of course, the by-elections came. You were in a minority government. You decided you wanted seats to get your coveted majority so you could rule over us. And for something it's worth. That's what you want. I read a couple months back in the paper that you were taking away the teachers' rights to strike. That made me sick. It's Canada. Not North Korea. Not Soviet Russia. Not bloody China. Canada. And if we don't have a right to collectively bargain with our employers, whether that employer is the government or not, if the government can say, no, you must work, even if you disagree with the conditions imposed, if the government can say, this is your contract, suck it up and take it, then really, are we living in a democracy? I ask you that. Are we living in a democracy? These were teachers, not they're important, they do an important job, but they're not like the police, they're not like the fire departments, not like healthcare. Stuff, jobs that need to be done 24/7. These were people who want to negotiate in good faith with the government, their employer, And the government said there will be no negotiations. Now, of course, that's changed now. We all know why. But the arrogance of this government down in Toronto is astounding. And I'm not naive. I know this isn't the problem with the Liberal Party, or at least not specifically with the Liberal Party. I have no doubt in my mind the progressive Conservatives who are gunning for an election, let's be honest, Tim Hudak has basically said he wants an election. And the only reason why we're not having an election is because the New Democratic Party, the NDP under Andrea Horwath, is propping up Kathleen Wynne and the Liberal Party, the Liberal government. And of course, she has a lot of concessions, and I'm not a big fan of Hudak just rejecting this government out of hand. But I understand the problem is with the system. With the whole system we have here in Ontario, and let's face it, Canada. Because the dirty little secret of our democracy is that the whole country doesn't count. The whole province doesn't count. Here in Ontario, or more specifically where I am in Northern Ontario, we have 11 seats in Queen's Park, the provincial legislature. The rest of the province, Southern Ontario, has over 90 seats in the provincial legislature. Think about that for a second. Think about that. You can lose Northern Ontario, still form a majority government. Is that democracy? You can loot Northern Ontario, as what the Liberals are doing right now. They are trying to loot us. But you can loot Northern Ontario. You can spit in the face of everyone in Northern Ontario and piss on their grandfather's grave, excuse my language, and still form a majority government. You can still dictate to us legally. Well, you can dictate to us legally, but what we should not do, how we run our lives, as long as you keep Toronto happy. And that's a dirty little secret, isn't it? As long as you keep Toronto happy, as long as you keep the Golden Horseshoe happy, Hamilton, Ottawa, as long as you keep them happy, you'll get into power. The rest of us don't matter. And that's why I have no illusions here. The progressive Conservatives get into power, and they will appease Toronto, as the Liberals appease Toronto. You know, shortly after the McGuinty government announced that the ONTC would be sold off, you know what else they announced? That the Ride of the GO train, Southern Ontario, if your ride was more than 15 minutes late, you get a full refund. Well, guess how much that was worth. Almost exactly the amount that the sale from the ONTC would bring in. So I guess we know where they're getting the money for that. I'm going back a bit to my point about the provincial governments having to appease Toronto. This works on a federal level too. Look, you can piss off every province, every territory in Confederation. As long as you appease Ontario and Quebec, you will form a majority government federally. Is this democracy? Where you can ignore most of the country, ignore most of the province, still get your way? I don't think so. Democracy is not just majority rule. It's minority rights as well. And that may be an ethnic minority, a religious minority, or a regional minority. If our rights are not being respected, if our voice is not being heard, if there's not a way, if we do not find a way to share power, to spread out this influence, and this country is heading for a bad place, my friends. Northern Ontario needs a greater say at Queen's Park. Federally, the rest of the country needs a greater say in Ottawa. We cannot go on like this. This is a form of colonialism, imperialism. I mean, look at all the great empires of history. What do we see? When they prosper, power spread out. It's a centralization of power that leads to ruin. Happened in ancient Egypt. Happened in ancient Rome. Happened to the Soviet Union. When power becomes concentrated in so small a group of people's hands, or even one region's hands, like in our case, Toronto, woe to the rest of the country. Woe to the entire country. Because this will come back to bite you in the ass. Most people are apathetic right now, like, oh, we can't do anything about this. But we can do something about this. Now, I'm not saying it's time to raise the banners and march on Toronto, burn it down, no. But us here in Northern Ontario may be looking to form our own province. There are people in this country who feel that the western provinces would be better off on their own. They're marginalized right now. And Harper, being from Calgary, hopefully can keep them marginalized, can get the West a greater voice in Ottawa. But it can't just be one man. It has to be an institutional change. Well, there's a lot of controversy around the Senate. The appointed Senate. Let's get rid of it. Let's move to a more American style Senate. Each region, each province gets to send 2 senators. They get to choose their own senators for a short period of time. It's nothing we need to change the term limits, but that's another discussion. But each province, 2 or maybe 3 or 4 or 5, whatever the number we decide on, let them elect the people of those provinces, elect their own senators, send them to Ottawa to work for them. Put a term limit on it, 4 or 5 years, and then another group of senators are elected. At least this way, it would be the start of a change. So that more people in more parts of Canada and more parts of Ontario at the provincial level, more people and more spread out would have their own say in how this country is run. Because we cannot just let Toronto dictate the fate of this province. We cannot let Ontario and Quebec dictate the fate of this country. This country is more than that. And I live in Ontario. I recognize that. We need to change the way we do things. The system must change. Not 20 years from now, not 30 years from now, not even 15 or 10 years from now, but now. Change has to start now. Thank you. Good night.